Spike Lee has made over 20 movies. He has made some of the greatest films of all time, some of my favorite films of all time. These movies make him one of the greatest filmmakers and one of my personal favorite filmmakers. He's also made quite a few bad movies. Spike Lee is not afraid to swing for the fences. Some of his worst films are quite ambitious. He's even made a bad war movie before, but that's just plain old regular bad. Da 5 Bloods is in its own category. It's a special kind of terrible. It's offensive, it's bad, it's offensively bad. This isn't generically bad or bad due to lack of effort. This movie really goes for it. To give you an idea for tone, this is one of the first scenes in the movie. So it's like, okay, this feels a little forced and unnatural. I get it. It's the old guys dancing in the club bit, but then it just keeps on going. And it's like, is this old man dance number going to end? Oh, thank God. So yeah, that seems fun and everything, right? Some goofy old guys dancing. But the juxtaposition of this and the very opening of the movie makes this scene much more uncomfortable. The movie starts out and it's immediately tasteless. I had to close my eyes and look away at certain points. It starts with this montage that's mainly images of the civil rights movement and footage of the Vietnam War. And it's like, okay, they're using these real images and this real footage. But then it shows like a dead body on the ground from Kent State. And it's like, okay, I don't know why they had to show that. Isn't this like a fictional kind of lighthearted movie at times? This isn't like a serious, hard-hitting film. This certainly isn't a documentary where they need to show us graphic images like this. And then it just keeps on getting more and more graphic. It shows the famous images of the monks that are burning. It shows the full real video footage of these monks, two different Vietnamese men lighting themselves on fire and burning alive. It shows the video footage of that famous picture of them shooting that Vietnamese guy. That he's all like beaten and they kind of have him, he's in the street and they hold a gun to his head and they just like shoot him point blank in the head and he falls to the ground. Blood starts spurting out the sides of his head and it's like, oh my goodness, this is all real footage. It just feels so unnecessary. It's like really awful stuff I never needed to see. It's like if I knew I was going to watch a war documentary, you know what you're getting into and that's what you're going to see. That's not what this is. This is like a fictional, like not like a serious movie. It's kind of like City Slickers. It's like City Slickers go to Vietnam. I mean, it's really like City Slickers 3. Because City Slickers 2 is like they have to go and find the gold. And that's what this movie is, except in Vietnam. It's like these old guys get back together and they gotta go find the gold in Vietnam. This is not a movie that should be showing us real images of real people getting shot in the head and blood squirting out of their head. And then it just keeps on doing that. And then from there, I literally just had to close my eyes and look away because it would be like real video footage of like naked Vietnamese children running through the streets as they're being shot. It's just like they were just running away. These Vietnamese children running away naked in fear. It's just like, what the hell is this? Why is Spike Lee doing this to us? Why is this necessary? It's really unbelievable that Spike Lee is starting the movie like this. It just feels so righteous and just like dripping with trying to be like virtuous and just, like he has some sort of moral superiority that he feels like he can use these images like he's making some sort of great statement, but he isn't. This is like City Slickers 3. This is not a movie that should be showing this. The best word to describe this is tasteless. It is truly, truly tasteless. There's another much better Spike Lee movie that starts in a very similar fashion. Malcolm X starts with images of the American flag burning, intercut with footage of the Rodney King beating. But the Rodney King incident just happened in 1991, the year before Spike Lee's Malcolm X came out in 92. Malcolm X is a serious biographical drama of one of the most important figures in the civil rights movement. A biopic done this well shapes society's view and memory of the subject, especially to a young audience unfamiliar with Malcolm X. This movie will impact the way you view Malcolm X. Showing footage of, at the time, the most blatant display of excessive force by police officers on a black man, showing that footage before the biography of Malcolm X is a powerful way to start the movie. It's a way to connect the audience in 1992 to what Malcolm Malcolm X was fighting for. Da 5 Bloods is a laughable farce about some old geezers looking for buried treasure. The movie came out during the first summer of the COVID pandemic in 2020. The movie has absolutely nothing to do with Kent State. It barely has anything to do with the Vietnam War. Da 5 Blood's portrayal of the Vietnam War is about as respectful as any war flashback joke in a movie or show.
Incheon, Korea, 1950. I was the best cook Uncle Sam ever saw. Slinging hash for the fighting 103rd. I sent 16 of my own men to the latrines that night.
So, there used to be a documentary series about filmmakers on TV called The Directors. They put out individual episodes on DVDs. I had a few of them. One of the DVDs I had was on Spike Lee. You can barely call it a documentary. It's Spike Lee sitting at an editing bay looking bored as hell, completely monotone. He slowly talks about each of his films he's made. Sometimes it feels like he's embarrassed when he's talking about his films that didn't do too well. Like Girl 6.
Girl 6, in a lot of ways, was...
Girl 6, which is about a struggling actress who becomes a phone sex operator. Spike Lee's explanation for the movie not being well received is that people are judging Spike Lee's perceived persona and not his films.
My problem with critics is that they seem more involved with who they think Spike Lee is. They seem more involved with the persona or what their perception of Spike Lee is than with the actual work, what's on the screen.
He's not wrong. That's definitely a factor. But he also gives the excuse that a real artist has to have a large body of work.
And that's crazy. How are you going to really intelligently evaluate someone? Smart people know you only do that when an artist develops a body of work.
Pretty much the opposite theory of Quentin Tarantino or Stanley Kubrick, which is make a minimal amount of really great movies, quality over quantity. Spike Lee feels it's all about quantity and creating a body of work, which shows.
So that's how you get evaluated on. At the end of the day, what was your body of work? So that's always been the goal, to try to build a body of work.
So back to the fun. These guys are all Vietnam vets from the same platoon, and they are reuniting in Vietnam. After their dance number, they sit down and start catching up. One of them says he's a Trump supporter, which just feels like this tacked on idea to make the movie topical and relevant. So the others start to rag on him for being a Trump supporter. They jokingly say that they recognize him behind Trump at all the rallies. So Spike Lee decides to cut to an image of a Trump rally with a big cartoon arrow pointing at the only black guy in the audience, which is subjectively funny, but it feels wrong to be cutting to real footage in such a goofy manner after just showing real footage that was horrific and showing it for almost no reason. Off to a good start. We are quickly reminded that we can't have a movie about the Vietnam War without showcasing some caricatures of Vietnamese people. The movie makes the strong choice of showing flashbacks to fighting in the Vietnam War, with the old actors looking old. No makeup or anything to make them look younger. Just a bunch of straight up old guys playing themselves when they were young. In a better movie, this could have been some sort of interesting symbolic device, but these are what the flashbacks are. This is what they're like. They're full of excessive violence for the sake of entertainment. They are like scenes from a new Rambo movie.
Hey, y'all remember those Fugazi Rambo movies?
Look at all the bright red CGI blood splatter. And they are just really boring, skippable scenes that just stop the momentum and take you out of the main narrative. Look at all these digital muzzle flares. And this little CGI poof of dirt. So this whole flashback is just to show that they found bars of gold back in the day. At least it's nice that they get it out of the way. They don't make it like some kind of mystery where they're in Vietnam on this journey and you don't know why. That's at least nice. But this could have just been revealed with some expository dialogue. But this movie doesn't take the lazy route with anything. It really doesn't. So after that unnecessary action sequence, we are back in present day. Now, for some reason, every time a character mentions a real-life person, Spike Lee cuts to an image or a clip of that person. This kind of editing works well for YouTube videos, like the review you're watching right now, but this is a movie. This isn't a YouTube commentary. It's very distracting. It takes you out of the movie. The actors and the entire crew have worked to create a tone and pace with the scene, and then in post-production, Spike Lee is making his editor chop it up and throw these images at you back to back, completely throwing off the vibe of the scene. Then we are introduced to one of the silliest subplots. In order to have the gold bars discreetly transferred into money for them, Lester Freeman has to contact his ex-lover from Vietnam for help. When he goes to meet her, she has a secret half-black, half-Vietnamese love child. Ooh, is it his? Does she know? Does he know? This is such a laughably unneeded subplot to the movie. Once again, just such a classy, stereotype-free depiction of the Vietnamese people.
She was a bastard child of the enemy. I was a whore.
Me so horny. Me so horny. You keep lying. Me love you long time.
The secret love child was pretty much when I gave up all hope on the movie being redeemable in any way. It's just so cliche and soap opera-y. I first thought the cast seemed pretty cool. The shit guy. Shit. The other guy from The Wire. The guy from every other Spike Lee movie. And some dude I had to look up on IMDb. I love seeing cast members from The Wire show up in other places, so Clay Davis and Lester Freeman are a pleasant surprise. I found out later that the original cast Spike Lee had in mind was the guy from Breaking Bad, Sam Jackson, Denzel Washington, and his son. Apparently, since Spike Lee couldn't get Sam Jackson, he replaced him with the guy who was pretty much just known for saying shit in everything he does. Shit. He is likable enough. No one from the main cast stands out as being terrible or ruins the film, but it's no question why Denzel Washington and Sam Jackson turned down this movie. They read the script. So yeah, there's more flashbacks, a Bond villain. They introduced the character that was supposed to be played by Denzel Washington's son, which would have been cool to see that real-life father-son chemistry on screen. The son somehow tracks his dad to his exact location in Vietnam. They explain how the son knew where to find his dad with the same joke that's been done dozens of times.
You gotta choose better passwords. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on now, Dad.
I first saw the joke in Spaceballs when I was a kid.
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life.
You really want your Vietnam War movie to be making jokes from Spaceballs?
She's gone from suck to blow.
The look of this movie is all over the place. There's frame shots like this that are very staged looking. They look like they're out of a Wes Anderson movie. While going down a river in Vietnam, Spike Lee decides to play Ride of the Valkyries, famously used in another Vietnam War movie, the acid flashback of a film, Apocalypse Now. It is never good to remind the audience of a better movie.
Man, never show a good movie in the middle of your crappy movie.
Throughout the movie, Spike Lee decides to keep on shoving civil rights and Vietnam War footage into the movie and in our faces. Compare this to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer had every chance to show real footage of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Christopher Nolan could have shown the bombs going off. He could have shown the real images and the real footage of melting Japanese bodies, but Christopher Nolan clearly has far better taste than Spike Lee. Instead of showing graphic real footage, Christopher Nolan decided to use the art of cinema to create a symbolic representation of how Oppenheimer is haunted by the destruction of the atomic blasts. He actually tried to convey something artistically with the art form instead of just showing you real life war footage.
Smart people know you only do that when an artist develops a body of work.
One of the characters has a black and white photo camera and an old-fashioned film camera to record the trip with, which seems odd because this is supposed to be a secret mission to recover this hidden gold. But Spike Lee wanted to have a reason to have more visually jarring style shifts throughout the movie. Around the hour mark, Spike Lee even decides to change the aspect ratio for the film. Up to this point, Spike Lee has indicated the past and present by aspect ratio. The past looked like this, the present looked like this, but for seemingly no reason, the present day aspect ratio changes around an hour into the movie. So now it looks like this. And it's really too bad the movie can't keep a consistent visual style because there are some good looking shots in the movie with some nice depth and color and lighting. It's a competently shot movie. Everything done in post is madness. A little after an hour into the movie, the characters find the gold, which would have been fine and dandy if the movie was an hour and a half long, but the movie is 2 hours and 36 minutes long. There's more than half of the movie left at this point, and they've already found the gold. So at this point, it's like, where's the movie going? What's it going to be about? What's going to keep my interest for another hour and 20 minutes or so? I barely cared when they found the gold. So the genius idea is that they argue over the gold. While arguing, the one boring character played by an unrecognizable actor, the one character who's hardly had anything to do in the movie, the character that was written to be the character that dies early, that character steps on a landmine and blows up. He literally blows to pieces. It's like a scene out of Tropic Thunder. It only comes off as comical and laughable. There is blood squirting from his armholes.
Just a flesh wound.
They're doing the old-fashioned false floor trick where they just like dug a hole and they have the actor's head sticking out of a prop body. It looks so silly. And this moment is supposed to be entirely dramatic. This is supposed to be a serious moment. It's unbelievable. Then the son accidentally steps on a landmine as well. Oh no! But it doesn't go off. He's still standing on it, but it's not going off. So he's afraid to remove his foot. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, from the middle of the jungles of Vietnam, comes a group of English-speaking white people who, coincidentally, professionally work to clear landmines. They help save the son. Then his crazy dad decides to hold them all hostage in fear that they will steal his gold. That's literally what this movie has become. It's such a movie scenario. They find the gold, but they are worried about each other being greedy and scared of outside forces who might want the gold. It's like every movie where they find gold or money. Good never follows. No Country for Old Men, A Simple Plan, Treasure of Sierra Madre, and the movie that parodies Treasure of Sierra Madre, once again, City Slickers 2. Spike Lee thinks this movie is a take on Treasure of Sierra Madre, but it's really a remake of City Slickers 2. It's so crazy. The parallels between this movie and City Slickers 2 are uncanny. So now one dude is blown up and in the ground, and these people are their hostages. They immediately introduce this weird forced romance between the son and this French lady. This movie commits a big movie sin by casting Paul Walter Hauser in this nothing of a role. He's a dynamic actor. His breakout role in I, Tonya, he plays a great scumbag. I love when someone plays a good scumbag, and he does it as good as anyone in I, Tonya. He also kicks ass in a starring role as the awkward Richard Jewell. In everything else I've seen him in, he completely grabs your attention and steals the scene. In this movie, he is literally just the fat guy. He hardly has any lines. He's completely forgettable. He's just there to be the fat guy. I understand why the actor took the role. It's working with Spike Lee again, but Spike Lee shouldn't have asked him to do this nothing part. Just because Spiky Boy worked with him on BlacKkKlansman doesn't mean that he's the actor for this role. They should have gone to some nobody actor. I kept on waiting for this character to do something, but he never did. Then following the Treasure of Sierra Madre City Slickers playbook, some guys with guns try to rob them of their gold. But they somehow take out this crew of armed thugs. This movie just doesn't give a shit, right? I mean... And it knows it's referencing other films, but it thinks it's doing it in a clever way.
Where are your official badges?
We don't need no stinking official badges.
If you're the police, where are your badges?
Badges? We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges.
We don't have to show you no stinking badges.
This is also like the second Mel Brooks reference in the movie, because Mel Brooks uses this line in Blazing Saddles.
Badges? We don't need no stinking budget.
And then he quoted the bad password joke from Spaceballs. It's just so funny that this movie is trying to reference Treasure of Sierra Madre, but it's so goofy that instead the references come off as references to Mel Brooks movies and City Slickers. This is where the movie becomes truly directionless and meandering. They split up in different ways, with the crazy dad having his own personal MAGA Rambo storyline. They play into the romance more between the son and the girl. They do some more flashbacks. There's like 30 minutes of this kind of stuff, and it truly feels like nothing. Eventually, like, pretty much just everyone dies. That's how the movie ends. It's like, you know, pretty much everyone dies. But after all these Vietnam sequences, the movie still isn't over. There's still like 15 more tedious minutes of wrap-up sequences. So throughout the whole movie, they've shown you why these different characters need the money from this gold. They go through this big experience to get the money. All of them die except for Lester Freeman and MAGA Rambo's son. But they don't keep the money. One donates his millions to Black Lives Matter. And for this donation sequence, it looks like Spike Lee actually gets like a real Black Lives Matter group to pretend like they're getting this donation. So I hope he really gave them something. Otherwise, this just feels wrong.
We just received a check from our soldier Eddie for $2 million.
But this movie's all about Spike Lee using footage of real people in the absolutely wrong way. And the rest of the money is donated to the hikers organization that helps remove landmines. The last scene is an unneeded follow-up to that scene from the beginning of the movie with Lester Freeman's Vietnamese love child. It's like, what? This is the way to end this movie? It's a callback to one scene from early on that barely has anything to do with the story. It's an odd way to end things. Except it's not the end, because this movie can't end. The final sequence of the film is footage of a Martin Luther King Jr. speech, which feels a little holier than thou and on the nose and just soapboxy and in your face, but that's still not the end. Then there's text on screen, but that text has nothing to do with the film. It doesn't talk about what happened to the characters or anything like that. The text only pertains to the Martin Luther King speech they just showed, and it needlessly explains that Martin Luther King Jr. was a devout critic of the Vietnam War and that the speech was given exactly 1 year before he was assassinated. But the movie is still going. Now there's one of those silly credit sequences out of a comedy movie where they show all the characters and actors with their names. Even during the text scroll of the final credits, it randomly cuts to this. Because of course this movie would do that. It only makes sense. And then for the love of God, the movie is finally over. So yeah, that's what I call a colossal failure of a movie. Some movies are subjectively bad, but the filmmakers succeeded in their vision. This movie is interesting for all the wrong reasons. It is entirely offensive with its use of real footage that has power and meaning behind it, and it is disgraceful to use it in such a haphazard way. It's also offensive to Spike Lee fans because we know he can do better than this. And it's offensive to any moviegoer because it is so mind-numbingly dumb for 2.5 hours straight, it feels like it's killing brain cells. This movie looks like it took a lot of effort to film. It seems like Spike Lee really tried to make something he thought was going to be impressive. He filmed the movie in Vietnam and Thailand. This wasn't a quick, cheap effort. The movie is so bad. It's like an expensive Ed Wood movie. The only thing that keeps it from being that Ed Wood level bad is the acting. The acting is fine. They are good actors giving decent performances, but there's nothing they can do to elevate this material. There's a reason Sam Jackson and Denzel turned this down, and absolutely nothing can save the way this movie was put together. Everything that was done to this movie in post, all of the editing, it is a visually jarring mess. This movie manages to drag way past the point of being entertaining. I'm not one of the many who finds enjoyment in watching bad films, but I do enjoy listening to people make fun of bad movies, and this movie is frickin' terrible. But sometimes that manifests in enjoyable moments. The bad stuff is so shocking, I was literally jumping out of my seat by myself, yelling at the TV. So I don't know, it's really long, but still maybe a fun recommendation to laugh at with friends.
So that's how you get evaluated on it. At the end of the day, what was your body of work? So that's always been the goal, to try to build a body of work.